I am going to be going over every single meta weapon that you could possibly be using in ranked play. Starting things off, the Vaznev and the TAC are going to be the two best guns, although there is a couple of hidden weapons like the Vel 46. This thing just got a buff. It's actually so freaking good. The MP5 is also a very good option, and then if you are a sniper player, I got a sniper class setup for you guys with a great secondary. Also, the Kastov 545 is a great weapon. The Kastov 762 just got banned, and so this is the next best option. And lastly, I got an M13B setup. I think this gun is good. It's not like super good, but it is a contender to be a meta weapon. By the way, do you want that Orion camo, but you're just a little bit too busy to grind through all 2,000 camos? If so, you should definitely check out Guapci. Guapci provides weapon leveling services, camo unlock services, challenge unlock services such as the Warzone Nuke, and many more for all the platforms. With all that said though, let's go over the Vaznev 9K. This is going to be the best possible SMG that you can use. It has a lot of mobility, zero recoil, and an insane time to kill. That being said though, if you want a very good time to kill, make sure you hit all 3 shots in the center chest. If you hit the legs or the arms, then it starts to feel like a very weak weapon. So the first Vaznev class I want to give you, I believe this is Shotzi's class, although sometimes I do see him run the broadside stock. With the broadside stock, you're going to get more mobility than you do with the Ultra Zat, but you're going to have more cons. It's going to be a little bit harder to hit your shots in like medium range, but overall it doesn't really matter. And for the underbarrel, we are going to be running the Shark Fin 90, although I have seen Lunchtime run the Commando foregrip, and so if you do want a little bit more recoil control on your weapon, feel free to run the Commando foregrip. And the reason that some people are now running the Commando is because in the Season 2 Reloaded update, they actually buffed all the underbarrels. Now you're not going to lose nearly as much ADS speed, and so they pretty much feel identical. You just get a little bit more recoil control with the Commando. And for the muzzle, you actually don't even really need it. There is going to be a little bit more recoil in the weapon, but this 3 attachment setup is a very good setup. If you like to be in the enemy's face, make sure you try out this setup. You'll probably like it. There's also one more very good one. This is like my favorite range setup. We are going to be running the broadside just for a little bit more mobility because we are running the Kastov barrel, which this barrel is going to severely increase that damage output of the weapon. It's actually going to make the Vaznev feel very good. You guys gotta try this setup. But since it is hurting the mobility, I am running the broadside stock to bring that back up, and then for the rear grip, I'm just running the True Tag just for a little bit more mobility, and that's going to wrap it up for the Vaznev. This next setup I want to go over, this is going to be the Vel 46. In the Season 2 update, they actually buffed it, increasing the overall damage range, making it a meta weapon now, and I believe this is going to be Shotzi's class setup. Yesterday, I actually watched Shotzi drop like 63 kills in ranked play, given he's an insane player, so it doesn't really matter the weapon, but he dropped freaking 63 with this setup. So for the class, we are going to be running the Tango barrel to increase the damage range a little bit more. That's probably the biggest downside with the Vel, is it has absolutely zero damage range, but now with the recent damage range buff, plus you're adding this barrel, it's going to feel like an AR. It's actually going to be very nice. For the underbarrel, this is a little bit of a unique underbarrel. The Bruin Sync Shot Grip. This can increase the aim and idle stability and the hipfire accuracy, making it very good for rushing, and there's going to be less idle sway, giving you more predictable recoil. That being said though, feel free to run the Shark Fin 90. This is also a very good one. It's just I see more people, and I believe Shotzi was running the Bruin Sync, so we're running that guy. And for the magazine, typically we don't run any magazine on any ranked play build. You don't really need any ammo, but a cool thing with the Vel 46 is that you actually can lower the ammo count. The default mag size of this weapon is 40, which is a lot. So if you add the 30, you should be perfectly fine on ammo because it is 4v4 in ranked play, and this is going to severely increase the mobility of the weapon, making it feel very good for rushing. And then for the rear grip, we are going to be running the Skalager Soldier Grip just to furthermore increase the mobility. We don't really care about the ADS speed, we just need to increase the sprint of fire speed, and so if you see the enemy, you got to be able to pull up your weapon, get that first shot off first. And then for the stock, we are just going to be running the Assault stock just for a little bit more recoil control, makes the weapon a lot more stable. Please give this setup a go and let me know how you like it. For the next setup, this is going to be the Lachmann Sub, which I believe got a buff and a nerf in the recent update, and this is going to be an updated setup to mitigate the cons that we are getting with the nerf. So now this setup is going to have a very quick ADS. I believe you have one of the fastest movement speeds in the game. This is a very nasty setup. I believe it's actually Octane's. Absolutely zero recoil. You can easily beam the enemies up to medium range and you got a very fast time to kill. Just make sure you hit the enemies in like the chest and try to land a headshot. So for the class setup, I believe that they lowered the overall mobility in the recent update, and so we are going to be running the Falcon barrel to bring that mobility back up. We are going to be losing recoil control, but like I just showed, there's really no recoil on the weapon, and a big reason for that is going to be for the Bruin Pendulum, which this is going to be the best muzzle for every single SMG in the game. If anyone says anything otherwise, do not listen to them. The Bruin Pendulum is 100% the best one. Next up, for the underbarrel, we are going to be running the Shark Fin 90 just because it adds a lot of aiming stability and there's no cons. This weapon is really good, like just the stock base gun with no attachments, so you don't want to add attachment that's going to hurt the weapon. Next up, for the rear grip, we are running the Cronus grip just to make it a little bit easier to stay on target when the enemies are shooting at you. Your screen is going to shake less. And lastly, for the stock, we are going to be running the mobile stock just to furthermore increase that mobility. In this setup, such a banger setup. I actually like this one more than the Vel 46. Next up, we got the SPX, which is going to be the best sniper. The MCPR is also a very good one, but overall I think the SPX is going to be a lot better, which the pro players actually don't run any attachments on their SPX. It is all GA'd, and so in the future they're probably going to remove the option to add attachments to it. But since we are allowed to use attachments in ranked play on the SPX, this is going to be the best setup for it. Pretty much you just want to increase the mobility without hurting the damage range. Say you're playing the public matches, then you want to increase like mobility, and damage range doesn't really matter because you're going to be running around quick scoping, but in ranked you are going to be hard scoping a lot. With that said, we are not going to be running a barrel, so the weapon is going to be a little bit slower, but you are going to be hard scoping a lot. And then for the stock, you want to add the max DMR precision. This is going to increase the aiming stability, so there will be less sway when you are hard scoping, and then you have a little bit of a quicker ADS. We are losing a decent amount of cons, but those don't really matter for snipers because you're just propped up holding lanes. And then we are going to be adding the Skalager grip just to make the weapon feel a little bit better, although the Bruin is a very good rear grip. This is going to be just as good as the Skalager max grip. It's just a personal preference thing. For me, I want a little bit more ADS, but if you want your screen to shake less when the enemies are shooting at you, run the Bruin. Next up, we are going to be running the Bolt, which is going to increase the rechambering speed, and so if you need to pop off that second shot, you are going to be able to do that a little bit quicker. For the ammunition, we are going to be running the High Velocity, which in exclusive Ace's video, he proved that this does absolutely nothing. And for the secondary on a sniper, pretty much for every other class in the game, I'm going to be running a knife just so I can get around the map a little bit quicker. With the sniper though, if someone rushes you, you can't really rely on your knife, and so it's very helpful to have the X12, and then you just want to add the lightning fire and the Cronin rear grip. Most of these attachments are going to hurt the weapon, and so that's why you just want to run the lightning fire to increase the fire rate, and then the Cronin rear grip just to increase the overall speed of the weapon. And for the perks on my sniper class, I'm pretty much running the same thing I run on every other class setup. I'm running the double time, bomb squad, and fast hands. Sometimes I will put on the battle hardened instead of bomb squad, but it just kind of depends on what my teammates are using. And since I only really snipe in search and destroy, I'm going to be running the frag grenade so I can get like a spawn frag kill. And then for the tactical, obviously just run the stun. And for the field, because this is going to be for search, I'm going to be running the dead silence, although the trophy is pretty nice if you're trying to prop up in an area, make sure nobody can push you. For the next setup, this is going to be my favorite setup to be using in ranked play. I used to love the SMGs, but then I built this tac build and oh my days, I've been popping off. Because of the recent buff to your underbarrels, you can run like the Edge 47 and you'll get a lot more recoil control without hurting the mobility like at all, giving you a complete beam of a weapon. This is such a nasty weapon, but if you do want it to be good, make sure you hit 3 shots in the center chest. When you start to hit like arm or leg shots, then the weapon starts to be pretty bad. So here is my favorite setup for the TAC 56, although I do like 2 other ones. Before we get into that though, every single TAC 56 build you are going to be using is going to have the Tundra Pro barrel. This severely increases the damage output of the weapon, but it is taking a hit to the mobility, although you don't really feel that. And then for the rear grip, we are running the clean shot so we can bring up our weapon a little bit quicker after sprinting. For the stock, you guys got 2 different options, although if you do run the X-Line Pro, I have a different very good tac setup that I'll show you in a second. For this one, I really like the Cardinal stock. This attachment is going to allow you to run around the map a little bit quicker and you can strafe quicker, so you get that rotational aim assist. And then for the underbarrel, listen up, this is going to be very important. So if you want the most amount of recoil control, then run the Edge 47 or the F-Tag Ripper. They are identical, but you are going to take the biggest hit to your mobility, and so the next one down is going to be your Commando 4 grip. The next one down from that is going to be the Phase 3 grip, and then the next one down from that is going to be the Shark Fin 90, which the Shark Fin 90 doesn't give you any recoil control, but you're not going going to have any cons at all. And just for this build, I found that the Edge 47 was the best. And for the muzzle, you guys got two different options. So the Camo Heavy is going to completely eliminate the horizontal recoil on the weapon, which that horizontal is going to be the harder recoil to control because it's bouncing left to right rather than like up and down. Say you do notice just a little bit too much vertical recoil on the weapon, then I would try out the FJX Fulcrum Pro. This gives you a very nice balance between the vertical and the horizontal, but for me and Octane, which plays on the LA Thieves, we like the Kamado, which that is going to wrap it up for my favorite TAC 56 setup. Another very good one that you guys got to try out is going to be the one with the Commando foregrip and the X-Line Pro. Basically the same thing as before, but you're going to have a little bit more mobility because you are not running a muzzle, and then this stock is actually going to increase the ADS speed, which we are also going to get a lot of crouch movement speed, and when you're playing ranked, you do got to crouch walk a lot, and so that is going to be very helpful, although we are losing a decent amount of recoil control. And so for the rear grip, I'm running the combat grip, but if you do want a little bit more mobility, feel free to run the clean shot grip. I just found that I do better with the combat grip. And as you guys can see, we are running the high velocity rounds, but the only reason I'm running that is because I just don't want to run a muzzle on this build, and I'd like the iron sights, and we don't need a magazine, so might as well throw it on. And for the final tac setup I want to show you, this is going to be Scumpy's old build. It might be the same one, but since there was a couple buffs and nerfs, he might be switching it up. So this setup is going to have a lot of mobility. We're basically running the same thing as the first class setup, but no muzzle, and then we're running the Shark Fin 90 to maximize that ADS speed. Then for the rear grip, we're actually running the combat grip just for a little bit more recoil control, although I think a little bit of a better setup is to run the clean shot and then swap this out for maybe the phase 3 grip or the commando, so you get a little bit more recoil control, but you're not going to really take any hit to your mobility. With all that said, that is going to wrap it up for the TAC, and this is typically the setup I'm going to be running. You don't really need a dead silence with the TAC. You're usually kind of propped up holding lanes, and so the trophy is going to be very helpful. Say you are running an SMG, then you actually might want to run the dead silence because you can be a complete nuance to the enemies. You can run around like buildings and stuff and be in their face, making it very easy for your teammates to capture the objectives. I really never run a trophy system unless I'm playing like on the hill. For this next setup, we got the Kastov 545. The Kastov 762 was better, but now it is banned from ranked play, which the reason they banned the Kastov 762 from ranked is because of that 2-shot kill potential. It kind of made the playing field unfair. Yes, you would get outgunned by like a TAC or a Vaznev, but you get a lot of lucky kills, and when you get lucky kills, it really takes out the competitive integrity from the match. And so now the Kastov 545 has risen. It was good before, but now this is going to be even better. With the Kastov, you have a very good time to kill, and you have absolutely zero recoil, still having a lot of mobility. I kind of usually use this weapon like an SMG, and as you guys can see, there is no recoil on the build. So for the muzzle, I accidentally had the Cronin muzzle on for some reason, but I think the Fulcrum is going to be a little bit better. You just get that nice balance of vertical and horizontal recoil control. For the underbarrel, because there was literally zero recoil on the weapon, we're just adding the Shark Fin 90, although if you do want a little bit more recoil control, I would run the Commando foregrip. Next up for the ammo, again, this doesn't matter, and so if you want to run an optic, I would take off the high velocity and add an optic, and the optic I recommend is going to be the Cronin Mini Pro. I used to run it on here, but I lately have been really liking the iron sights. Still very good though with an optic. Makes it pretty... Oh my days, I just missed every shot, but that was because I was talking, trust me. Okay, and then for the stock, to add a lot of mobility to the weapon without hurting like the overall recoil control that much, I'm going to be running the broadside. Previously, I would run the Kastov Rama, but I found that I can get a little bit more mobility with the broadside with still having a lot of recoil control. Say I'm playing the public matches, I'll probably run the Pro Light because you don't need to hit every single shot. In ranked play, you really got to hit every shot, and so I found the broadside was the best. And then to bring up the mobility a little bit more, we are going to be running the True Tag grip. And the last setup I want to go over, this is going to be a very underrated M13B setup. The M13B in the Season 2 update actually got a buff, and so now it's going to be a little bit better. With this, you don't really want to use it like at super long range. It has a very good damage range, but you don't really want to use it at like long range. It's very good when you're using it at like medium range. That is where the weapon excels. So the build I got going for this baby, we are going to be again running the Fulcrum Pro. We're going to be running the Commando foregrip just to get a little bit more recoil control, although if you do want more recoil control, feel free to run the Edge or the F-Tac Ripper. And if you want more mobility, then I would just run the Shark Fin 90, although I found the Commando was the best. For the rear grip, we are going to be running the Bruin Flash grip just to get a little bit more mobility, mostly for that sprint to fire speed. For the stock, previously I would be running the Ravage 10, but I found that the Bruin just makes the weapon feel so much better. You can get up in the enemy's face a lot easier, but we are losing a little bit more recoil control, and so feel free to run the Ravage 10 if you want a little bit more recoil control but less pros. Then for the iron sights, I didn't really like them. If you do like the iron sights, then obviously take off the Corona Mini Pro and then throw on the high velocity, which doesn't do anything but might as well because you have that free attachment. And just before I wrap this up, I just want to show you guys how I lay out my classes. Basically, if I need to swap between Dead Silence and a trophy very quickly, I have created two different Vaznev setups, same with the TAC 56. Basically, whatever your go-to weapon is, just make one setup with the Dead Silence and one with the trophy. Some people like Lunchtime, he's actually going to run like maybe the same field upgrade, but he's going to make two different setups in case he wants to swap between the Semtex and the Frag.
Little bitch like young, I bought a yours today. Let her pay it all yellow like a bird.